Welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. Now, before I get started, I do want to give a trigger warning because I am going to be talking about death of a loved one, about grieving, and if that's just not something that you can watch right now, I completely understand. Please look after yourself. Click out of this video and I will see you in another video. So as you all know, my mom passed away on Thursday, June 29th, 2023. And while it wasn't unexpected, I have learned so much through this whole process that I kind of wanted to share with y'all in case, it might help one of you. Now, before I get started, I'm not going to give any gory details or anything like that. I'm truly trying to give you some information that might be helpful if you're on that journey with a parent or loved one. I am, however, going to tell you a little bit of a funny story, and you can still have joy in your grief. You can still laugh. You'll do a lot of crying, or at least I have. And I'm hoping I can get through this video without crying. I don't have talking notes. I'm just going to try to talk to you from my heart. So, not everyone is inclined to make what is called advance directives. And I will share with you, they are different in every state. And you can Google advance directives in your state. And you can totally print those off. They do have to be notarized and take your family member or loved one to get them notarized and make sure that their final wishes are completely understood. I think one of the biggest blessings through this whole entire 12 and a half years of caring for my mom is that we did do that early on when mom was still capable of making those type judgments about her end-of-life care. So that really helped me. I'd say the second thing you want to do is make sure you understand your loved one's final wishes. Do they want to have a funeral? Do they just want a celebration of life? Do they wish to be cremated? Whatever their wishes are. And I will also share with you, my mom, my dad, and myself have all prearranged our funerals because, guys, it's a fraction of the cost to do it ahead of time. Is it easy to do? No. I would be remiss if I said it was easy to do. But then when it came down to having to make those actual arrangements for later this week, I did not have to wonder about what my mom wanted because it was already taken care of. I really can't give you financial advice because, again, inheritance rules are very specific. But if you have a loved one with dementia, having that account made joint so that you can control finances has been an amazing help to me. I did not have to worry about mom forgetting to pay a bill, not paying a bill, have her electric shut off, whatsoever it might be. And if you are working with a facility, be sure to share very transparently the financial situation, if they're starting out private pay, if they need to be put onto Medicaid, whatever the case may be. Usually the social worker can help you with that. I think another point for you to remember is if you have siblings, don't expect them all to be on the same page as you. One of the things that I have learned through talking with friends, and some of you actually, is that there is usually one sibling who bears the burden of most things. In a lot of ways, it's easy because you can make decisions without having to clear it through people. And then in another way, it can be an overwhelming, and I say burden, not because I didn't want to do for my parents, it's nothing like that. But let's face it, it's sometimes enough for me to manage my own life, and I'm sure y'all feel that way as well. So I think if you have the ability to be the durable power of attorney for healthcare as well as finance, and again, those documents are different in every state. Google it. You can fill them out yourself, have them notarized at the bank or wherever a notary would be in your area. That really helps, because then there's one person making the decisions, which may or may not be popular. In my particular situation, it wasn't that there was a lot of controversy about decisions that I made at all. It just felt burdensome, because I just hoped and prayed I was making the absolute best decisions in every case. And in hindsight, yes, I was. But when you're in the thick of it, it can be very, very difficult. I would also say, give yourself grace, even through the time when you're setting these things up, because it's the point at which you realize that your loved one is probably going to pass away before you do, and that you're going to have that whole grieving process to deal with. So talking to a counselor, going to grief counseling, going to support groups, particularly when dementia is involved. Dementia can be a very difficult disease. My mom did not have Alzheimer's. She had vascular dementia, which is a little bit different. However, a lot of the things are the same in that the person can lose their filter. So they say and do things that are out of character for them, that are very hurtful to you. And you have to be able to separate the disease from your loved one, or it will take you down, guys. It will hurt your feelings so badly. And I've been through some of that. But as a nurse, I thought, well, I can totally handle this because I'm a nurse and I've taken care of hundreds of people, you know. It's totally different when it's your loved one. So again, reach out for the support that you might need. Now I'm going to tell you all the funny story, and I hope you all can find some humor in it. It does seem like every time someone on mom's side of the family passes away, something very bizarre happens. Yeah, and this was no exception. So if you don't want to hear the funny story, skip ahead about 2 minutes and I'll give you some closing thoughts. So as I said, my parents and myself have a prearranged funeral. And when my mom was admitted to assisted living, I tried to let my mom answer as many questions that the admissions people had so that she would feel not like she was being put away, but that, you know, she had some say in the matter. One of the questions they ask you is, have you made your final arrangements? Of course, mom said yes. And they said, where? And she said, and this is a local funeral home to where she lived, called Tobias Funeral Home. I heard her say it. I knew she said it. I didn't think anything about it. So when my mom actually passed, of course, they went to the record and said, hey, we'll call Tobias to come and pick up your mom. I was like, okay, yeah, call Tobias. So they came. They were quite lovely. I have nothing negative to say about them. But then they called and they said, you know, we cannot find any arrangements for your mom. So I get all spicy and I'm like, well, I have the receipts and blah, blah, blah. And Tobias actually owns the cemetery. So they said, well, we see her burial arrangements, but we don't see any funeral arrangements. And I said, well, it's been at least 20 years, if not longer. And they said, okay, it wouldn't be in the computer. We'll go look in our paper files. And I'm like, please do that. So the owner calls me back and he said, honey, your dad's arrangements were from Newcomer. Could it be that that's where your moms are? And as soon as he said those words, guys, I knew. I mean, hello, I was there at my dad's funeral. That's where mine's arranged at. I sent my mom to the wrong funeral home. Now, when you're stressed and grieving, weird things go through your mind. So what did I ask him? Well, do I need to come pick up Mom? And I'm thinking, and y'all, I'm laughing and not out of any disrespect. If my mom was living, she would think it's funny, and my dad probably died laughing up in heaven. But anyway, my mind this quickly goes, well, it's going to be like Weekend at Bernie's. I could put her in the front seat, stick some sunglasses on her, and then I'm like, wait, she's... Rigor mortis has probably set in. Well, my mom is short. I could probably put her in the back seat. Wait, is that even legal? That went through my mind in like an instant, guys. And he was like, no, honey, this happens at least once a week, which made me feel a little better that I was not the first person that sent their loved one to the wrong funeral home. And they're literally like a block from each other. So Mom is at the right funeral home. I've made arrangements with the funeral home in the cemetery and such. And so I have been trying to forgive myself for making such a big mistake. But I've also been trying to see a little bit of humor in it. Because guys, like, who does that, right? And I've always prided myself. If you haven't learned my personality by now, I am very type A. I'm very organized. I'm very much a list maker. I am the keeper of all the papers and the records. That's just my nature. So for me to have sent her to the wrong funeral home was like a huge mistake. So I hope you're laughing. You can laugh at me, but I hope you're laughing with me. I think the final thing I would like to leave you with. Now, shoot, guys, I've done really well. I haven't cried at all. I don't even know if my tears work anymore. Unresolved conflicts within the family often will come up through the death, the dying, and the grieving process. And really, I can't say that I've handled everything perfectly well because I have not. And I think you all know by now. Yep, I'm putting it out there on YouTube. I have been the only one there. And I'm a little resentful. But if you hold on to that anger at a person, you're only punishing yourself. I figure if the Lord can forgive me for all my sins, I can certainly forgive a family member. However, I will say, sometimes you do have to make a decision or set some boundaries for yourself if you feel that certain people in your family are very toxic to you. Doesn't mean you have to be unkind. It doesn't mean that you are never going to see them again or speak to them again. But it's okay to set boundaries, and it's okay to set boundaries in the midst of grief, because this is something that you'll never forget. You know, the passing of a parent. Just made it through, guys, but I'm going to. So as I was saying, you know, the whole time around losing someone, I think becomes a very crystal memory that you probably will never forget. And so if your memory is all about family controversy and drama, that's not a good way to remember and honor your loved one's passing. And again, guys, I'm not perfect. Have I lost my temper, you ask? Oh, yes, yes, indeed I have. What I want to remember, and I've alluded to this, my mom did not pass easily, you know, and some people do and some people don't. And the Lord takes someone, you know, when it's their time. He is in control, not us. But I spent the last 3 days alone with my mom. A little resentful about it. It's okay. Praying with her. I mean, she couldn't communicate, but I could. Reading the Bible to her. Singing old hymns. Surprised she didn't tell me to shut up, because, guys, I just have a very... I can carry a tune, but I have no good voice, right? No Christina Aguilera here, right? But I'd like to think I was a comfort to my mom at the end. And fighting with someone is not the way. Guys, it's really not. It will only make you feel worse. Ask me how I know. I think one of the hardest parts of losing a loved one, and I'm yet to experience this, but I'm going to share it with you because I had such an experience when my dad died. You know, people were so kind, and they, you know, came to the funeral home. They came to the funeral. They sent cards. They did all these wonderful things. And then once my dad was buried, everybody went back to their normal life, as they should. I could not understand how the world was still turning, you know. How can people just go on like nothing happened? Well, it's not their father, right? It was my father. And I think having a plan for the days and weeks following the loss of a loved one is good. Maybe that plan is you're going to give yourself a lot of grace and you're going to go do something that you have wanted to do for years. Maybe you just need to be alone and quiet and still. Maybe you need to stay really, really busy, which is actually my plan because I find comfort in work. And if I have too much time on my hands, I think too much. And believe me, that's never a good thing. I want to sincerely thank every single one of you for sticking with me through a lot of ups and downs. You know, I've been dealing with a lot of things with my mom since I started my YouTube channel. Gosh, has it been almost 3 years ago, August 1st, or has it been 4? I don't know, 3 years I think it's been. And I appreciate all the cards, all the kind words, you all. You have no idea what an encouragement, and all the prayers. And I have felt your prayers, and I deeply appreciate that. So today is Wednesday. I hope to have this up for Thursday. Y'all, my garden looks like terrible because if you neglect it for 5 minutes during the heavy growth season, it really looks bad. So I am going to try to do some work in the garden. I may try to do an additional video of a July garden tour and just sharing some information about what I've done right and what I've learned I've done so wrong. But you know what? Sometimes you don't know until you try. I appreciate your time today. I hope if you're dealing with this in your life as well, that these points might have been a little helpful for you. It was a burden on my heart to just share that. Just expect the unexpected, and it's okay to grieve, and it's okay to give yourself a little grace. I will see you all hopefully later this week, and until then, be healthy, be well, be blessed, take care.